In the previous lessons, we have done the following things. First, we made a cartoon character. As you can see, he is on my stage right now. Then we gave him some animation. In this case, he is running. And then we focused in on the environment, and we started making an environment for our character to interact with. Now, the next step is focusing on the antagonist. So what is that? Well, referring back to the screenplay, we can see that it is a gigantic boulder that chases the character. So using the same tools we've used to create our character and the environment, we will craft a boulder and then put it into a looping animation and have it chase our character. There is one thing I should point out though before we get started. You'll see that I added some details to my character, and I did point that out when we animated him, and I told you to go ahead and do the same. But I also added some very subtle details to the ground of my environment. I didn't show how to do that in my previous tutorial, but I did tell you to do something similar, to add more detail or to do something with the environment. So that's why I have those streaks on my road. And you could actually just download the file I have here and see how I did it. It's really easy to do with the line tool. And with that said, it's boulder time. First, come down to your timeline and make a new layer. Just click on the new layer button, and then we can rename this layer to boulder. And now, what I want to do is take the oval tool and just simply make an oval. So coming over here to the toolbar, we'll select the oval tool from the shape icon so we can hold down our mouse button to access the oval tool if it's not readily available. And now I'll choose a black stroke color. And for starters, let's just choose a gray color for the fill. And I can change this later on with a gradient tool once I put the rock down. And I will put my stroke size to 5 because this is what I've been using for my character and I want to remain consistent with that. So I'll put it to 5. And now, what I'm going to do next is simply hide all the layers so I can focus on the boulder just for right now. So coming up here to the top of my timeline where this eyeball icon is, I'll just click that to hide all the layers. But then I'll come down to my boulder layer and click the X to show that layer so I can see what I'm doing on this particular layer. So starting anywhere on the timeline on this layer, it doesn't really matter. Just simply click and drag your oval out, and we can make it basically any size we want for right now. We'll be resizing it once we put it into the actual environment and we compare the size to the character. But for right now, about this size will work, just so it's a decent size that we can work with. So once you've done that, what we're going to do is find a gradient color for this oval. So we can come up here then to our color panel, which is on the right side of our screen. And if you don't have that, you can simply go to Window and then Color, and that will give you the color panel. But open up your color panel, go to your radial gradient, and now we'll select 2 colors to make up the oval. So starting off, let's double click on the black color and choose something like a dark gray, like we have right now. And then go to the white, and let's choose something kind of purplish, because that kind of keeps with the theme that we have going on here. So we'll choose this and see how it looks. And then taking the paint bucket tool, come over to your oval and simply click to fill in. And remember, you can click around to adjust the gradient. And if you can't do that, simply come over here to your toolbar and make sure you have the lock fill button unchecked if you can't put where you want the gradient to go in the oval. So once you have the gradient set, we'll simply then take our line tool, which is on the toolbar. And what I'm going to do now is add some ridges and some jagged lines to the oval, and then I'm going to remove chunks of the rock along with these lines. So to start, I'm just going to come like anywhere. It doesn't really matter where you start, just kind of anywhere on the circle, and we'll just click and drag a line out like this, and then like that, maybe like this. And then we'll simply kind of connect it like this, just coming back around to kind of make it almost a shape in itself, like that. And it's okay if your lines go outside of the oval a little bit. Now, if you follow along with the environment tutorial, I did this kind of similar procedure with a tree. And so this should seem fairly familiar. But once you've done this, come over here to your selection tool, and then come back and simply select the line that is on the outside of your new shape and hit your delete key on your keyboard. And then do the same for the fill. Now, sometimes this might not work. You might try to click into this area to select just this part of the fill, but it might select the entire thing. Unfortunately, that just happens sometimes. And in this case, I'm just going to have to roll with it and just delete the entire fill and then trim up this line by clicking it and deleting it. But if I come back to my paint bucket tool and then come over back to the oval and just fill in, it's not filling in. So if it doesn't fill in for you, you can simply go over here to your gap size icon and click that and set it to close large gaps. But then come back and click the fill. And you can see now that we have, a jagged looking edge for this oval. And I'm going to do this now for a few other places. I'm going to just give it a little bit of variety and just try to shape this a little bit to make it look a little bit more deadly and less like a perfect oval. So then going back to the line tool, coming back over to the oval, we'll simply just find another area. Just kind of go like this. And then I'll go over here, do the same. And then up here. And then maybe one more, like right here. Okay. Now going back to the selection tool on the toolbar, we'll simply come in here and delete the lines and the fills. So I'll start here and hit my delete key, click the fill, and see in this case now, it just selects that part of the fill and not the entire thing. It's just a little finicky sometimes, but we'll just delete that. And then we can delete these lines sticking out. And we'll do the same with this part. And again, as you can see now, it's selecting the entire fill, but I'll just go with it and just get rid of the rest of this here. And in some cases, you might just want to fill it at the ends, and so you don't have to, keep messing with the fill, and that's completely fine too. But for right now, we'll just go with it how we have it and make sure we get rid of these remaining lines, and then we will fill it in again just to make sure we can see what this looks like.